What I realized in that moment is you may lose all your material things. It may seem that you lost everything, but there was this energy when I was crying and things like that, that this something very internal that was like, you're going to be okay. Think about all the things you do have and not what you don't have. So it was really gratitude that saved my ass.
2, 1, 0.
Hello and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. This is your host, Orion. I just finished an incredible conversation with a really, really phenomenal human being. She is so lovely and bubbly and genuine. It's so refreshing to find a person that is so aligned with their message. And if you watch this interview on YouTube, you can see the spark in her eyes and the type of people that is so fun to be around. She shared her story of achieving success and navigating through life's turbulences and shifting and picking herself up from hitting rock bottom. It was very inspirational. Lulu Agan is Chief Officer of Bliss and owner of SwellWomen. She aims to empower women to prioritize their health and well-being and to discover a new sense of vitality, allowing them to connect with their limitless potential through tailored empowerment retreats and programs. Lulu believes the ocean has the power to erase egos, unleash the human spirit, and teach one to color outside the line, which is a beautiful metaphor. While yoga brings balance and a deep, supportive connection to oneself, all lessons that can be easily carried back to daily life, allowing that raw passion to color our everyday moments. So yes, it's time to color outside the lines. It's time to experiencing more colors and more variety and more fun and more bliss. So now without further ado, on to the show. Hi, Lulu, and welcome to Stellar Life Podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Aloha, Ryan. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm super grateful.
Are you in Hawaii now?
I am in Hawaii. I live in Hawaii.
Where in Hawaii?
I live in Haiku, Maui, North Shore.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And normally I would be outside in my garden, but we are experiencing tropical storms and high winds.
Oh,
So,
no.
so I'm like, I got to find a spot in my little bungalow.
Do you surf every day?
Well, I mean, my intention is to surf every day. I went out a few times in these kind of conditions with high winds, like 25, 30 miles per hour. And it was a little chaotic. So sometimes I can't, but I've also recently learned how to wing foil so I can actually use the wind then. But I mean, on days like this, I really just have to tap into my yoga practice and other things because it's not conducive to much surfing.
See, I'm a lousy swimmer and I'm really afraid to surf. And the one thing that I really would like to do one day, but it's about conquering a lot of fear for me.
Well, that is true for not only myself. I had to go through like lots and lots of layers of fears, but what I do in my job is really to help women like you who have this deep desire to like want to learn how to surf, and then you're like, how do I peel back those layers to allow me to, feel comfortable and take little inspired action to learning.
Right.
So I've had many, many women on retreat that have fears like you.
Yeah, but what if you don't swim very well? Isn't it dangerous? Don't I have to like learn how to swim first?
So do you know how to stay like floating in water? Can you be in water and float and stuff?
Yes.
Can you hold your breath?
Yes.
You have a very large floating device attached to your leg. I mean, the swimming part is really being on the board and paddling.
Okay.
So, but you have the floating device underneath you.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you fall, your main goal is to get back on your board and paddle back out. I've had one woman on retreat that did not even know how to swim. She was absolutely petrified. She wore this little, life preserver vest, and she did it. She rocked it, man. It was amazing.
Amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, I was in Belize recently and I went scuba diving, and that was another fear conquering activity for me.
And could you do it?
Yeah, I did it.
Perfect. Then that means you can surf.
You know what? I did a lot of things in my life to conquer fears. I walked on glass. I walked on hot coals. I jumped from a telephone pole.
Wow.
What else? I broke boards. I broke an arrow with my neck.
Wow.
I just like a seminar junkie. Like I go and I do all those crazy things. But I don't know, surfing seems like much scarier than all of these.
Yeah, but Orion, if you're swimming underneath the water with all the sea creatures, you're
Mm,
swimming, you can do the same thing with surfing. It's probably even better because you don't see what's underneath you.
that's amazing. So what is it like when you surf? What's the experience like for you? Why do you do that?
It's like the ultimate bliss. I mean, and I think that many women can say this, but for myself, it keeps me coming back for more because when you're out there, you're in nature, you're breathing in the most pure prana energy ever, and you have to be in the present moment. Like you're
Mm,
constantly, looking for the wave, waiting for the wave. You're also connecting to community. So I get to connect with my Dawn Patrol peeps every morning, and I just get so much out of it. And then when I do dawn patrol, which means surfing really early in the morning, you get back and it's like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and you have your old whole day that starts, and you've
yeah.
set yourself up for this like if I can do that, I can do anything.
Yes, yes. I live in Florida,
Oh, where do you live in Florida?
in Miami, North Miami.
Oh, I lived in West Palm Beach for like 5 years, and there is
Okay.
surfing around there, just so you know.
I'm sure there is. I think that if I'll do it, I'll have to come to Hawaii and have you be like, Orion, it's okay. I'm afraid. Hold my hand.
I will hold your hand all the way. I'm really good at making people comfortable in the water. That's for sure.
Yes.
And I work with amazing surf coaches. So you're always in good hands. And we always take you to a break that's suitable for absolute beginners. And
What is it about the people in Hawaii? They seem so chill and happy all the time. I think it's something about the land. It's special.
definitely, I mean, it's magical. And I think when you live on a tiny island, I mean, you get this in Miami, but it's really hot there. A lot
Mm,
of time it's really hot. But I feel like you have to do something outdoors. You're always connecting to nature. And I think
mm,
that just sets up for a really good demeanor. If you live here, you're most likely doing water sports or something in the water. And so that in that aspect, you're like fulfilling, the windsurfing aspect or the
mm,
water or your snorkeler or your diving or your
mm.
canoeing, stand up paddling, whatever it happens to be. And that just in itself it blisses you out.
Yeah. Have you ever been around, big whales or had like
Oh
wild
yeah.
animal encounters?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we get whale season from like the mid end December, and then it comes into full January and February. Way back when, I think like, I don't know, 10 years ago now, I had a kayak, and I was out at the time with a friend in this kayak, and we had a, video camera and everything. And out of the blue, this mama and baby raised their
Oh my
fins.
goodness.
It was like I mean, it was like right there. And I could see its eye. The eye was like as big, it felt like as big as my face. And we were
Wow.
just like, oh my God. But
Wow.
otherwise, you can go on a boat and stuff and you can see them all the time. And
It's not the same though.
it's amazing. It is. It is equally as amazing. I mean, they're coming right up to the boats. And when you see, how big they are and the reflection
Mm,
in the water, oh wow, it's amazing. I was
yeah.
pretty obsessed for a while.
That's amazing. I had a whale encounter, but it was not a natural encounter. We went to SeaWorld and we did an experience with the beluga whales, and I got to touch
Oh,
them, and
oh wow.
they're amazing. They're beautiful and majestic and amazing and fun. A 3-year-old, and he was just over the moon.
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, and then we went to the souvenir shop, and I was like, okay, now we're getting a beluga whale. No, truck.
Classic. Did he want a real
Classic.
one or like a pet, or did he want a stuffed animal?
No, I just wanted the truck. But he still talks about it. It was fun. So you love surfing and you love yoga and you do those retreats and you're passionate about wellness. What's your origin story? How did it all start?
Well, it normally starts when your world is falling apart around you and you're wondering how I contributed. How did I contribute to this mess? you know, I have always been on a mission. I, I don't know, it was like instinctual to be more an observer, and I would start to see patterns. And this is like in my 20s and stuff, but I would see patterns unfolding. And I would also see where I was running when I was running away from vulnerability and, deep, meaningful connection, particularly with partners. I just was the observer. I mean, I was obviously experiencing it, but I would step out and I would see this and I'd be like, what is going on here? And I'm super, super curious. And I intuitively knew that there was something. I've always felt this deep connection to something bigger than myself. I call it the, universal energy, and so it would drive me to try to overcome mindsets that were blocking me from having deep connection, from feeling safe to be vulnerable enough to love, to want to take
Wow.
care of myself. Like, this is our vessel, right? So I've always been deeply connected to spirit. And then I needed to learn how to navigate the human experience in order to feel love, connected, and, all the juicy things that happen when we start peeling back the layers of what's holding us back. So a lot of self-help.
Yeah, yeah, yes. And what do you think are some of the keys that, or epiphanies you had around human connection, and how do you connect more? How do you create a community the way you created a community? What is the secret behind that?
I think for myself, it's finding the things that start opening you up. And so yoga, I didn't know. I was like going to yoga and I thought it was phenomenal. I was doing Ashtanga and sweaty hot flow classes and things like that. And it made me feel amazing. But then when you keep going, it starts penetrating these layers that you're like, what the heck is happening right now? Right. And your heart starts, exploding, and then you start, I don't know, you start looking at things in different way, feeling things in different way, you through experience of something like yoga. And then of course it also surfing. So for each individual it may be different, but for me those are the things that really started, like blowing my heart open, because it started eliminating, you start creating space in your body, and then there's more flow. And I don't know, man. Those are my things. And then and then the whole mindset thing. I think my path started when I began to identify that certain end results kept happening. So, for example,
Mm.
pursuing of relationships, I would feel vulnerable and then I would pull back and basically self sabotage, right? So, or even just like behavior. So, I think for me, one of the biggest shifts that started happening was definitely like this curiosity to flip mindset, for sure. Like, what is this vulnerability and why do I feel like this? Why do I run when I feel vulnerable? Or why do I create like walls so I don't let people in? And I just have, these are in my 20s when I'm portraying in the business world, for example, this hard ass, working in Latin America and doing sales and all these things. And then, but really, it was just this, it was fun, but there was no deepness. It didn't, the deepness didn't. So I would say that curiosity.
What did you do back then?
Oh, when I first started, I was doing international business development for companies. So, and that was really fun. And I was in the corporate world. So I was in corporate world, and then basically pursued, I moved to Spain. I pursued my own real estate company. So all these things. But through that, I noticed that there was a lot of fear in the way I was operating my life. Like, I
Mm.
portrayed one thing, but fear was stopping me in so many ways, with connection, with love, with creating deep, meaningful relationships with friends.
What was the fear about?
I mean, for the most part, of just not probably feeling like I mean, I know now, looking at all this behavior, it's because I carried around this core value that was definitely just, that was created based on my family and my upbringing and things like that. We all have these hang-ups or whatever that prevent us from believing that we could have everything that our hearts desires.
I know that personally.
Oh, you do? So I felt very confident pursuing career because I believed I could do anything in that. But when it was creating relationships, that wasn't my strong suit for sure.
Mm.
I would attract from a place of like, I'm this fun loving girl. But then when I started feeling vulnerable because I thought the guy would leave or not be able to love me for who I am, then I would run, you know. And I think
And
that has to do with our past and our upbringing and the way, you know, all of that fed into this core belief that at the time I wasn't aware of, but now I am.
mhm. So what was the shift? Like how did you created that shift and got into place of eradicating the fear and be more open? What helped you shift that? Was that a one moment of epiphany, or was it a journey where you used a few tools that helped you along the way?
It's a journey of a, I mean, it's, I feel like it's going to be a journey of a lifetime, but I am definitely at 54. I've come really far since 24, let's say. I would say, you know,
I need to surf too because you look so beautiful. I can't even like you look much younger than you are. And
Really?
yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, I need some whales in my life.
Yes, you need some waves in your life.
Waves and whales.
Yes, for sure. For sure. I would say my curiosity, because you know when, and I'm sure you have experienced this, you get this, doing the same thing yields the same result,
Mm,
right? So if you let the same fear get in the way and things end, and then you experience heartache and disconnect and then disbelief and all these things, then you're curious. So I was curious on how to heal my life. And you know, I explained that I'm super spiritual. So I would allow that spirit to guide me to different resources. And that would be like books, you know, inspirational healers that would teach me what's going on.
mm.
Yoga, huge. Yoga, did I talk about yoga yet?
Not yet, no. But before you do, like, is there a book or a mentor that you think created one of the major shifts?
Way, way back, which was probably one of my biggest aha moments, was the Four Agreements, because it's so simple.
I need to not take things personally
Yes.
because I still like cognitively like don't take anything personally, but I do.
Yeah. I mean, we all do. And then the
Hmm.
minute you apply those four principles to your life, I truly believe that was a major shift, because I was like, wait a second, that's not my fault. Yeah, you know, and I think that it frees up a lot more space in your brain, in your pursuit of happiness and all these things. And ultimately, I think the main factor is that my main drive was, how do I, you know, what the Dalai Lama says is, how cultivate the things that make you happy, eliminate those that make you suffer. And my pursuit was, okay, these things are making me suffer, but it's my mindset and the fear that's getting in the way. So how do I start eliminating those things? So I would say like the Four
Hmm.
Agreements really helped. Brene Brown is amazing at addressing
She's
vulnerability. Marianne Williamson, at the time, you know, back in my 20s, Louis
mhm.
Hayes was in my field of how to heal my
Oh, I
body
love her.
and how to heal, you know.
Yeah, I got a chance to see her on her 90th birthday.
No, you're giving me goosebumps.
Just a few months before she passed. It was,
Oh,
and she
you're
went on stage.
so,
She didn't even speak. She just gave like a, like almost like a oneness blessing with our hands, and we all felt it. Thousands were there. It was beautiful.
oh my God. You're very lucky.
Very blessed. Yes.
You're very, very lucky.
So Louise, hey, but before we go on, I just want to, for the listeners, what are the four agreements? One is be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally, which is my thing, my thing, my personal thing. Don't make assumptions and always do your best.
I mean, hello. Start doing that. We assume so many things. We take things so personally. And so, I mean, that book is simple and it's really easy to execute those four principles in your life.
And so Louise Hay and the Four Agreements, was there like a,
Brene Brown.
yeah, was there a moment where like you had like this major shift or aha? aha moment where you were like, okay, now my life is shifting?
Yeah.
How did you build your business? How did it work?
SwellWomen, my current business. Okay, so I mean, this is I mean, this is really gonna get interesting. So I pursued this career in hope that this is like in reflection because the past is we have perfect vision in the past. I saw that I was pursuing these things in hope to get approval from my father, for him to see me
Mhm.
as this amazing woman that I am. During that career, clearly, I mean, I had success and everything, but when I was offered, the vice president of Latin America, because I was living in Chile for 5 years in this corporate real estate, and I was offered VP, I was like, is this it? Is this what it feels
Oh,
like to
wow.
make it to the top when you're like, I don't know, I think I was 32. And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I have to go and I have to go pursue these dreams and desires that I have because I want to leave the corporate world on a high. And I knew that I always wanted, in my 20s, I always knew I wanted to run retreats. I don't know why, but then I started doing yoga retreats and I'm like, oh, this is a way to help people. This is what I'm going to do. This is, and I had no idea where it was going to lead me to SwellWomen.
Mm.
So basically, I moved to Spain. I lived in Spain for 7 years. I pursued, I sold real estate. I had an amazing job. And all I did was connect with people, deep connections with people to learn about what their hearts desired in terms of, buying real estate in Spain. And then my mission was to find them that perfect house or that perfect plot of land or whatever. So it was like I was able to work with people one on one. And also in that whole healing process in Spain, like lots of stuff went down. So it was like just these ups and downs of life, big life things, but always with the pursuit of opening I thought it was a retreat center. Like I knew I wanted to run retreats. So I actually built this absolutely beautiful retreat center in Spain. And one of my absolute rock bottom moments was when I was in in England at the time, studying culinary, and I got a phone call saying that my property fell down, ground zero.
Oh, no.
So I lost everything. And my relationship was going really haywire anyway. So I lost literally everything. And I got a tarot card reader and she goes, oh, your tower, like everything's crumbling to the ground to give you a new fresh slate to rebuild your whole life again. So still retreats are in my brain. I'm like, okay, clearly this is not going to work. I just lost everything.
How do you pick yourself up when you lose everything?
You just know. You never really lose. You never, what I realized in that moment is you may lose all your material things. It may seem that you lost everything, but there was this energy when I was crying and things like that, that this something very internal that was like, you're going to be okay. Think about all the things you do have and not what you don't have. So it was
Yeah,
really gratitude that saved my ass.
I love it. I love it. It seems like, yeah, that and that deep connection to source. And I know when I hit rock bottom, and I told that story, so I'm not gonna repeat it, but when I hit rock bottom and I was very depressed, I wanted to put me on medication, but and medications might be good for some people, but I had this like little voice in my head that's like, oh, there is still light there. Just hang on. Just
Yeah,
hold on to that
yeah,
light. It's gonna be okay.
yeah,
It's gonna be okay.
yeah.
And I went with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now I'm covered in goosebumps. So I got to listen to your story one day. I got to go find that podcast when you share it.
So it's in some of them,
Yeah.
some of the 300 and something episodes or 53, I don't even know. I've been podcasting for 7 years. Oh my Lord. It's been a
Wow.
long time.
Wow.
Yes.
Kudos to you. That is
Thank you.
dedication. Keep coming up with amazing content and interviews and things like that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, there are some really beautiful people in this world, so it's really
Yeah.
fun. And back to you. And so you and so you had this knowingness that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah.
The terror, you got the tower, everything is like
Crumbling down, losing everything, ground zero.
with vengeance, and now there's a new clean slate where you are start to build back.
Well, what you have is a blank canvas to create again what you want, what your heart desires. So I was like, at
Yeah.
that time, I'm like, okay, well, let's get real here. My circumstances are changing significantly. Do I actually want a retreat center and run it by myself? Because my partner at the time had also, like, that was disintegrating. So it gave me an opportunity to dream big. And that's what I did. I was like, okay, what is it? What
Mm.
is it that I want? So I kind of, I took time to heal and
You got so much courage to go to all those countries and shift. I love your flexibility with your mindset where you're like, oh, this doesn't work. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me try that.
I never thought, Orion, that it was courage, but I always think it's like resilience. But you're right as well. It's like,
As well, yes.
it's just like I kept just saying, okay, what is your heart desire? What is it that you want? What could you do right now? And then,
Questions are so powerful because if your brain will answer whatever question you ask it. If you ask yourself, oh, why is it happening to me? Why can't I have a relationship? And you can just dwell in the pain, which is normal to do for a while. But if you just keep dwelling there, you won't go anywhere. You won't make those shifts because your questions were so freaking powerful. How can I get better? What can I do? What can I do? What's next?
yeah, and I feel like they were coming from, that voice or however you want to, it was more like this thing that was just like popping in my head. Okay, well, what is it that I want? And so it's funny because think about it. Since my 20s, I always thought I wanted to run retreats. And yet I did corporate. And then I was an entrepreneur in real estate, building out this retreat center, thinking this was the dream. Okay, then that's taken away. And you're like, okay, now what? That led me to private chefing, which is crazy because the real estate market crashed. I always had an interest in food and making gorgeous food that also, tastes amazing, but also is healthy for you.
I have a big interest in eating food.
Oh, me too. I love food. Yeah, so that took a spin to because I was at this cookery course and I ended up winning like this award, which was mind blowing because I was amongst like amazing chefs. And when they announced my award, I was like, what? And that gave me hope. I was like,
Wow.
oh. And so while the crumbling down came, I was like, I even asked them, I'm like, well, and then the real estate market started like, over the course of a year or so, couple of year, maybe a year and a half, that started crashing. I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to tap into food for a while. And so I called them and I was like, what should I do? And they're like, you would make an amazing private chef. So you got to come to London, interview with these agents. They'll place you, boom, boom, boom. And then my first gig ever was a gig with Joan Collins, which is so cool. And I worked for her, I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 years, but I worked with her in Saint Tropez the summers for 4 or 5 years. So my private chefing career took off for 12 years. So now the retreat things, like in the back of my head, but I'm like, all right, I'm going to run with this. So that's where I just keep recreating myself over and over.
So everything that you've been through prepared you for what you're doing today. The
Correct.
nutrition, the healthy nutrition,
Correct.
the luxury, like just being around people that are very wealthy, you already have the mindset of like, okay, how do I create an experience that is so luxurious and beautiful as I'm experiencing right now? So you have the nutrition, you have the luxury, you've been through hitting your own rock bottom, and you have the coaching skills and the willingness and the desire to help people. On top of that incredible business background, it's so beautifully and perfectly orchestrated.
Yeah, Ryan. I mean, it's like mind blowing, but I also had to surrender a lot and lean into a lot of fear and it's almost like the universe literally was plopping these things, these ideas in my head. And so I was like, oh God, that's a really good idea. Okay. And you're just following these little nuggets of clues to get onto the next path. And then the opportunity in 2014 presented itself to buy SwellWomen. It was launched in 2003, so we're celebrating this year 20 years of
Nice.
existence. She had a baby, her whole life changed. She was like, do you know anyone that wants to buy it? And I'm like, me.
Wow.
So in 2014, I was already done private chefing. I'd already done it for 12 years and was getting super burnt out. I knew that something, and I was asking for guidance. I'm like, please, like, what is next for Lulu? What's next? And then, just like you said, Orion, everything that I've learned from business, connecting with people, nutrition, making beautiful food, luxurious environment, all of this came together as SwellWomen. So I bought it, and it was a Maui-based company running retreats here, and I launched it internationally pretty much overnight.
Wow.
Yeah. And it incorporates everything that I love.
What type of breakthroughs did you see? It's women based or it's women and men?
So I run predominantly retreats for women, and I just recently launched with my beloved partner wing foil retreats. So we're just starting that. We just ran our first one in February, and that's open to co-ed. And then once or twice a year, I'll have a co-ed surf and yoga retreat because I get the requests.
What about a family retreat?
I know. I run a lot of custom retreats. So for example, March 5th to the 9th, I'm running a custom retreat for a mother or daughter. It's her 50th birthday, and it's her dream to surf and learn how to surf with her 18-year-old daughter. So I put that together. And so I
Wow.
do a lot of custom retreats like that. So if there's a family, I make it.
Mhm.
I probably run.
I was talking about retreat for families that want to meet other families and have a whole.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I feel like, Orion, that would need to happen with someone that has a family.
Mm.
Like I don't have any kids or anything. So I feel like my niche is like women, and then I'm getting this little sprinkling of, this idea of launching with my partner the wing foil retreats, which is really cool because we just ran it in February, and there was a couple on it, and there were a couple women, and it was like an opportunity for also men to experience that kind of coaching and empowerment and yoga, and it was really quite fascinating.
There is something very magical that happens when women go and retreat just by themselves, and there is also magic with the co-ed. I like that you have both. What type of breakthroughs did you get? Why do women choose your retreats?
I feel like predominantly, I mean, I did when I was looking at doing some online offerings, what I noticed is that predominantly women are looking for something new and exciting. Something has happened. They're either stuck, or they haven't had a life experience or a big birthday. They have this calling, like there's got to be more, that more moment, right? That's what I feel like. Once again, I do a lot of energetic marketing. I don't do a lot of marketing at all. I just
Wow.
like visualize the retreat coming together. And I get these women that, by the end of the retreat, you learn that there is something that made them look for something more. Like I've always, like you, I've always wanted to learn how to surf. I'm definitely afraid of it, but you know what? One day I'm going to do it. And then something pushes them to do it, whether it's, I mean, I've had people that are stuck in some aspect of their life, whether it's their relationship, career, that's predominantly loss, big birthdays, if not now, when, those kind of things. And then I have the opportunity for a whole week to connect to these beautiful women. I only host small retreats, meaning I call them boutique retreats, because that allows me to show up and really have the whole group come together and create strong, meaningful relationships. Women walk away being friends forever
Nice.
and traveling on their own, or traveling and coming back together. So, but I get this opportunity and I don't want to waste it. So I use the coaching. I mean, I use the surfing and the yoga and the coaching to show them, get a little sprinkling of what their life could look like, and that anything's possible.
Yeah. And you said you used energetic marketing. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, I actually, like vibrational marketing.
I was just listening to a marketing. My sister was like, "Oh my God, there's this beautiful marketing seminar. You gotta listen to it." I've been to a lot of marketing seminars in my life, and I ended up not doing much marketing. Like, I know the theory, but I'm just like, "Oh, I don't. I'm dreading that."
No, I know. I hate it.
So, what is energetic marketing? Because that sounds more aligned with me.
I'm making this up. But I just, when I'm launching a retreat, I just send out a prayer that the exact women or guests, will show up. And I always ask, like, how did you find me? I was like, oh, I Googled women's retreats or surf retreats or, empowerment retreats or whatever. And I swear every single retreat, the exact people that should be there are there. And to
Nice.
this date, like I never question it again. I'm just like, okay. Okay.
That's amazing.
So I just put it out there, like whoever this retreat would serve, allow me to be in the highest service to them, please, let them find me.
Nice.
I mean, I suppose I could do some marketing and, it would be beneficial, but
Yeah. No, this is good enough. What are some of your daily rituals? You said you surf in the morning.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big rituals girl. In fact, I just shared I have this newsletter and I really focus a lot of attention on my newsletter. So anyone subscribing, I have like a theme of the month and then I'm sharing all my tips and I just did rituals. So it's funny that you asked. I definitely have a morning routine. It's non-negotiable. To get into the details, I wake up, pee, scrape my tongue. I drink a shit ton of water, and now I have to take these supplements because I'm doing a cleanse. Take supplements. I go back to my bed in a sitting position, all warm and cozy. I meditate for 20 minutes. I usually use an app like, Insight Timer, and I do silent meditation or guided meditation. But now I wanted to let go of the apps. So I'm practicing the Ziva meditation, which is amazing.
Mm.
Helps you, it teaches you how to be completely independent and of all apps, which I love. So do that. And then I stretch. I do a little bit of movement to get me ready to go surfing. And if I don't surf, I do more of a, yoga practice. And then I always have a healthy breakfast, always. And if I'm on a rush, I always make smoothie. I'll make a smoothie.
Mm.
I'm like a little bit addicted to smoothies, but I think that's not a bad thing.
I like smoothies.
Yeah, and that's it. And then I have a little evening routine, which is, I try to let go of electronics early, connect with my beloved partner. We do hot tub, maybe cold plunge or shower, and that goes, and then it goes, and then I go to sleep. And I try to always go to bed. I'm an early riser, so I've been using that in my benefit, and I go to bed like at 9:30.
Oh, wow, that's early.
Yeah, sometimes 10, but rarely.
Wow. That's beautiful. It's a great discipline. I need to be more disciplined.
You know what's crazy? Meditation has probably been one of the biggest gifts.
Mm.
I feel like when you disconnect your brain for that 10, 15, whatever minutes, even if you start with 5, it doesn't matter how you start, as long as you start, it really does get me into flow and focus.
What are your 3 top tips to living a stellar life?
My 3 top tips for stellar life. Connect to your truth and your power. Know what you want and don't be afraid to pursue it. And if things are getting in the way, fear, I call it fear, which can show up as obstacles, limiting beliefs, anything that stops you dead in your tracks of not pursuing that dream or the desires, then look at it and lean into it and go, and then start eliminating that through change of mindset.
It seems like you have a very, very strong mindset. I think it is the powerful combination of being so physically active and so connected to nature and all the discipline of just doing those brain exercises every day. Because I like the idea of energetic marketing. I created a lot of things in my life energetic, and sometimes I still go down to places where I almost forget what I teach, you know? I forget what I preach. I'm like, come back, Orion. Let's go back. Higher vibration. Because that's the only, like, we can work really, really hard on achieving a goal, and also we can almost do quantum leaps where we are creating things that are beyond nature, above nature, and above our timeline. And we create from that place, and it sounds like that's what you do.
Yeah, yeah, but I also am a big believer. So what keeps me accountable in my practices is I have to show up as my best self and I have to do
Oh,
the
yeah, of
work.
course.
I have to do the work myself. If I'm trying to inspire or empower women to look at, to seek a life or rocking their bliss, then I have to be doing the same. That's the
Yeah.
journey forever.
I like it. It's part of the 4 agreements too, where you're accountable with your word or something like that. Where can people find you?
Instagram, SwellWomen. My personal one's Lulu.Agan. Facebook. Definitely, if you want if you want to connect with me every single week through I think the newsletters where I put most of my time and energy, and then everything else you take the newsletter and you kind of dribble it into Instagram and stuff like that. But SwellWomen.com if you want to learn more about the retreats, and Swellness Coaching if you want to learn about empowerment coaching.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Lulu. I appreciate you. It was really fun talking to you, and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much, Ryan, for inviting me. It's been a pleasure connecting with you.
Thank you. And thank you, listeners. Remember to connect to truth and to connect to your own power. Know what you want and pursue it. Lean into your fears and embrace them so you can break through. And have a stellar life. This is Orion. Till next time.